Hi there, thanks for tuning in again. This week was the first week of 6 weeks of PTO that I have, including this one. And I have to say I started things out quite lazily, but you will see about that in a few seconds. I also wasn't walking that much, so the whole week I didn't get out once. So how will that affect my weight this week? You will also find out in a few seconds, and as always, thank you for watching. This week actually started out quite stressful because I headed to head into my PTO and there was a lot of stuff left at work that I needed to wrap up. So Sunday and even the early Monday was quite busy with that. And after I was finishing with it, I needed like 2 days to wind down to actually get a grip of the fact that I have not to think about work anymore and I can concentrate on my free time. But after that, the weather was changing and it was so bad that it was always raining or it was having a snow rain one day even. So I couldn't get out because it was just wet. So what that all means you will find out, but first let's give you a quick intro. As a quick reminder, I'm doing the Weight Watchers program, and in Weight Watchers each food has points assigned to it. I have 44 points per day, additional 28 points per week that I can use if I like, but I try not to touch them. I should always aim to use up all daily points, but can save up to 4 points, which will then be taken into my weekly allowance. And I can also earn points for physical activities. For instance, every 1,500 steps earns me a point. But now let's get started. Sunday I started off with a breakfast where I had my 2 remaining Schweizer Weckli, which are darker bread rolls. Unfortunately I forgot to film any footage, so I'm reusing footage from last week. I also had 3 soft-boiled eggs, which comes at 0 points, so this breakfast is adding up to 11 points. For lunch I had the remaining chicken donuts, which are basically chicken nuggets just a little bit bigger and I think actually more tasty, because it's more meat and less of the bread crust. 16 points, and then in the evening I had another smaller serving of my regular salad, where this time I only used 1 tablespoon of oil and just 1 bag of the herb mix, so 5 points for this. My remaining 12 points this day I invested in some snacks to eat while watching TV. And as you can see, this is a Turkish brand that tries to copy bugles, and I have to say they didn't match the taste quite yet. It wasn't bad, but not as good as the real thing. But what they did manage is that they had more calories and more points than the original, so I will not go for that again. So at the end of the day I was exactly on point. Monday it was back to my regular bread rolls again, 13 points. For lunch I really felt like pasta, so I used 11 points worth of noodles. For the sauce I used a can of tomato bits and then a proper helping of tomato paste. And as a base for that all I used broth, which came at 2 points. So this whole dish came in at 13 points and I didn't even manage to eat it all, at least not in one sitting. Still having quite a lot of points, I went for a guilty pleasure in the evening and cooked me up some ramen, but I also wanted to spice it up a little bit, so I threw in 2 eggs as well. Which tasted interesting with the eggs in it, but I don't think I will do it again. 19 points for this helping. The whole day added up to 45 points, so I had to borrow 1 point from the weekly allowance. Tuesday was the first day where I actually didn't have to think about work. So here my PTO actually began. For that reason I slept in and just had a late breakfast in form of the rest of the noodles from the day before. 4 points. For lunch I went for one of my favorites, which is fish sticks. But this time I went for a vegan version of it, which actually tasted like the real thing, but to my shock came with more points than the original. 17 points for 8 vegan fish sticks. As I used instant mashed potatoes, they also came at 11 points and another 3 points for the sauce, which added up to 31 points for this dish, but it was totally worth it. Sometimes you just need to go there. And in the evening I just took the remaining 9 points and invested 2 of them into a nice broth and threw in 7 points worth of noodles, which means this day again I was exactly on point. On Wednesday I invited my sister over to finally hand over her belated birthday presents and also to have a little bit of a game night. As we wanted to order in, I just had a banana milk as breakfast, which was only 1 point per glass as I made it with unsweetened almond milk again. For the takeout, unfortunately I forgot to take any footage, but I calculated my lunch at 25 points. As a snack in between, we had another Kinder Pinguis, the strawberry variety. And after she left, I have to admit, I indulged again in some nice nacho cheese tortilla chips. 20 points for the chips and 3 points for the sauce, which brought me over my daily limit, and I had to use another 12 points of my weekly allowance. Thursday I woke up late again, so I just had 2 glasses of banana milk as my breakfast. And then, of course, only to use up the rest of the sauce, I had another bag of tortilla chips, which was my lunch, this time overall at 22 points. In the evening I went with something lean again, and I took just a Pichelsteiner pot, which, as you know, only comes with 4 points. I had the last glass of banana milk in between as a snack, and as I almost had enough points left to have 2/3 of a bag of cheese balls, I allowed myself to have one, which came at 18 points, so this day added up to 47 points, which means I had to use another 3 points from my weekly allowance. Friday I once more woke up late and skipped breakfast entirely, but for lunch I went for another one of my favorites, which is spaghetti alla carbonara. Would I have stuck to the cooking instructions, this meal alone would have exceeded my daily allowance by far. But due to me leaving out the meat and again using almond milk instead of real milk, I could achieve it that 2 helpings of this fine meal only came in at 32 points. With only 12 points left for this day, I went in the evening with just a small can of chili sin carne, which to my surprise only came in with 4 points. So I could even allow myself to have 8 points worth of nacho chips dippers to go along with it, because chili and nacho chips is really a fine mix. So as you can gather, I ended this day on point. On Saturday again I woke up late. Hey, I told you I was lazy this week, so don't judge me. As a late breakfast I had myself a nice frozen lasagna that I just heated up in the oven, which I kept postponing because it comes with 22 points. But I also didn't want it to expire, so I finally got rid of it. Later then, as lunch, I had another small can, this time an Asian soup, which also just came at 4 points. As something else in my fridge also was about to expire, which were some sausages, I had those, even though they were also putting me above my daily allowance, as they came with 26 points. Which is a real pity, because when I bought them I originally wanted to buy a special brand that seems to be not in existence anymore, which were wieners that were done with yogurt in it and very lean meat, so that 3 sausages only came in at 4 points, which is incredible, and they even tasted good. I'm still trying to find out if they have ceased production or if I can get them someplace. But for now I had to fall back on regular sausages, which I will try to avoid in the future because, as you can see, they have just too many points. But what I was thinking is, because I was already stepping on the scales this morning and I felt that very likely I will not reach my goal this week, that I then at least try to have just proteins and no carbs in the evening. Which actually worked a little bit, but not entirely, as you will see in a few seconds. But with these sausages, this day added up to 52 points, which means I had to again use 8 points of my weekly allowance, which was now down to 4 points. But as I'm supposed to use them, or at least be allowed to use them, it should still work, right? Let's see. So now that this weird and lazy week is over, fortunately also the weather is getting better, so I'm out for a walk for the first time in a week. And I really enjoy the weather. So, as it is Sunday, of course, it also means it's weighing day, and you might be quite interested, or maybe not, but since you're watching, I assume so, in finding out what my weight would be. And I have to admit that, and it's not coming as a surprise to me because I was so lazy I wasn't walking. I was almost using all of my weekly allowance in points that I didn't lose weight. I'm a little bit surprised that I've gained weight again because, I mean, the weekly allowance is there to take it. But last week's outcome also showed me that using the weekly allowance is not a good idea. So I have gained the 800 gram I've lost last week, which means I'm now in the 800 club, I guess, getting up and down, I hope. Next week it will be down again, maybe even more than that, but it depends on how much I can get out to walk. Again, this week I wasn't out to walk at all, I guess Sunday to just shoot a little bit of video for the last video was the most I was going out, and it was like 800 steps, nothing more. So I hope this week will be different. I hope your week was successful, because mine wasn't, but at least I was winding down and I can now concentrate on having my vacation. I wish all of us a happy time going forward. I hope your next week will be fantastic. For myself, of course, I hope the same. And maybe we see each other again next week. And until then, I just say again, thank you for watching.